See, pledge, if we can find there, the flag is to our right. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I don't need a motion to adopt the agenda.
To move the adopted.
Right, second,
I'll second.
all in favor? Aye. All right, motion to approve the minutes from the November 18th meeting. I'll make that motion.
A second.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Okay, my report is that I have not received response from Robert in a month.
There you go.
And I did send another request. If he's on vacation, I didn't get an out of office reply. I don't know. So, I have reached out. I've reached out on the issues that we talked about last time, and I reached out, for some other things, related to the policies, but I don't have a response for you, so I'm just noting that. We'll have to
Well,
deal with that.
well known that now it's been a year and a half,
Okay,
at 1 year and a half,
okay,
which is ridiculous.
all right. The other thing that I would like to report on is that I just received yesterday an email from Dane Morton. He is working on a grant that will fund an extended Riverwalk trail that's currently located adjacent to the town park and the folk school, southward along the Hudson River until it reaches Bridge Street. The town of Lake Luzerne currently owns all the properties along the river between Bridge Street and the folk school, with the exception of the library property. So, he wants to sit down and meet with me. I think it's just with me, just for chatting with Jim Niles to discuss the project, so I can gather any information and bring it back to the board. I really don't know.
I think he should be
Anything.
present here.
Well, okay, I'm gonna go find out things first and then,
I
we'll
think
come
he
back.
needs to come right here,
Okay.
keep
What-
you out of the loop.
If there's anything that's gonna happen, yeah, I'm gonna ask him to come here.
But,
So,
you know, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
He's just gonna repeat himself.
Okay. Well, it's not even meeting with him, it's meeting with Mr. Niles, and he wanted to, meet this week, and I'm crazy all week. I've had like multiple things each day, so I said, well, I can't meet until next week, and I haven't had a response since then. So I just wanted to apprise you all of that. Okay. I think that's all.
Is that something new? Is that something?
It's new to me. Yeah, it's new. It's a new plan. It's a grant. The Luzerne, he's a town board member.
Mhm.
So I don't really know anything more than I just read you.
Mhm.
The only other thing I did was I haven't done any more research on the fundraising idea that I had, because I really felt like we needed to talk about that more, and we can do that. We can look at the budget and all that, and talk about it during budget time, but, I did speak to Becky Doherty, who, on a smaller scale, is willing to, and said I told her that we were interested, and so she's gonna come in and do a quilt to raffle off, a book quilt, you know, with the pieces, so there's that piece, but that's it. Any questions? Okay, Colin, it's all yours.
Finance sheets are in front of you, just wanted to discuss a couple things, in order to save some money. The New York State Insurance Fund, we're gonna have to cut a check for $15,407. That's gotta be, I was talking to Tammy tomorrow, get it done before the 15th of December in order to save some money. Next issue,
That's right here.
Marion discussed with me,
That's just paid for 1 year. Paid in, you're talking about paid in advance for a year.
I'm sorry,
With the insurance, you're talking about paying it all up
Yeah,
front, so
that's
we're
what
not
we've been
getting a
doing.
fee.
that's what we have.
Yep.
Marion discussed some issues with me with the JP Morgan Chase account. We've been hacked. And we haven't got a response back. I tried to reach out today, couldn't get anywhere to be satisfied. So anyways, that's in pursuit, although we are paying it as of tonight. And hopefully that we do get reimbursed. It's $300 and some of, and she don't know where. So
Wait, is that the $486?
that's the total for, 486.12.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, okay.
but we've been hacked for $353.30. And that's in dispute right now. We've got paperwork, Marion has started paperwork, which I appreciate, and then I've been trying to reach out to these people because I can't believe they can't get us to respond quicker than they have. So anyways, so just wanted the board to understand that. Other than that, obviously, it's a pretty short form that we got in front of you because being early. And so I expect next month a lot of bills. And then I'm moving 25,000 from the interest bearing account due to, we're gonna cut a check tomorrow for 15,000. And down in the bottom line where now it says interest bearing account will be down to 91,352.19.
Okay,
Putting 25 into the operating account brings up 36,175, but we're gonna take 18,000 out of that tonight. So we're gonna be back down to 20,768 to get us through until meeting in January, and that's gonna be cutting it close, just so the board knows, that's all.
okay.
Other than that, I don't know if anybody's got any questions, be glad to try to answer them.
Is it, so we moved the meeting earlier because it was supposed to be helpful to you, right? Like, we were,
This is, but we're way early now because of the holiday, that's why it's,
like, when we went to the second, we were gonna go to the first, we went to the second, Tuesday of the month. Is that helpful to you, or are you saying that it's,
somewhat, but we got a lot of bills that I didn't even get because number one, Marion's gone, number two, I
Right.
came here and got everything she had on Saturday morning.
gotcha,
But there's still a lot of stuff that hasn't come in yet, so
Okay.
just letting you know that.
Yeah.
And that's why it's basically light, other than that large payment.
Yeah.
So
and the check from the school, the tax check, does that come in January?
we should get that first week of January,
First week
we
of
wanna get that. And, get it to the bank, we wanna put it right into that interest bearing account, so we can draw some money on that to help us as much as we can get, you
Yeah.
know?
Gotcha, good,
You said you're about to cut a $15,000 check. What's that for?
That's sure is.
Okay.
It's just to pay it all up front so that we're not getting, fees or anything.
Okay.
it saves money in the long run, but it's a big chunk, big check. Any more discussion? I'll make a motion to pay the bills, accept the reports and pay the bills.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thanks, Tom.
Yep.
I do not have anything to.
Nothing to report? Okay. The manager's report is in front of you. She emailed it and then I printed it just in case. So it has the stats and it has, the events, the dates, the patron numbers, and it's the item to discuss. There's 4 pages, I think, altogether. There's this with the chart on it, 2 pages, and then the manager's report like this, that has 2 pages. but on the text for the manager's report, the item she has to discuss is they would like to mount the router for the wireless internet on the wall. Counter space is very limited at the circulation desk. Thanks and updates to Chris and Dave from JA for the free solution for the wireless printer. That's great. The LARAC grant was submitted. They now have a carousel of upcoming events displayed on the TV behind the circulation desk. And there are still volunteers needed for the 13th, which is this Saturday's Sweets with Santa from 10 to 4. I don't think I need to go over anything else. Without her, any questions on that or comments?
I don't remember if I volunteered for that. Who would I talk to? I don't know.
You could tell Claire, I think, and she could take your name down for when you're
Yeah,
available.
I'll talk to you.
Okay.
I'm gonna be out of town.
I'm also going to be out of town this time. Okay. Are we satisfied with the manager's report? We don't vote on that anyway, so. Okay, old business. You have a policy, a code of ethics and a conflict of interest policy. Those are two separate sheets in front of you.
Have these been looked at by Robert yet?
They have been, yes. He responded to the legality of having us sign these documents, that we are required to sign them each year. Under state education law 800, there's a squiggle in front of it. I don't know what you call that squiggle, S 800 or something. So do I read these out loud? Is that how we do this? And then we vote on whether we,
This specific one, is this what, the state requires us to sign, or is this what you have formulated?
I put this together from a number of, code of ethics policies from libraries that I read and from some advice from the state library association. And then we ran it by Janice,
Yeah.
by Robert.
so the code of ethics statement of commitment, it is the responsibility of the Board of Trustees and the individual trustees to ensure that the Rockwell Falls Public Library provides quality library service to the residents of the communities we serve. This code of ethics represents our commitment to the ethical standards for our library. The guidelines are trustees serve the public by observing ethical standards with absolute truth, integrity, and honor. Trustees must distinguish between their personal attitudes and philosophies and those of the institution. After a policy or rule is adopted by a majority of the library board, individual trustees should not criticize or disagree with those decisions publicly. A trustee must respect the confidential nature of library business while being aware of and in compliance with applicable laws governing freedom of information. Trustees must not divulge information learned during executive sessions of the board or any information regarding future board plans or actions until such action is officially taken. Trustees must avoid situations in which personal interests might be served or financial benefits gained at the expense of library users, colleagues, or the situation. Care must be taken to ensure that family and/or personal relationships do not inappropriately influence a trustee's decision-making. Trustees must disqualify themselves whenever the appearance of a conflict of interest exists. Trustees must make decisions in the best interest of residents in all parts of Rockwell Falls Public Library's service area. Trustees must be prepared to resist censorship of library materials by groups or individuals. Trustees who accept library board membership are expected to perform all the functions of library trustees. If a trustee is unable to attend meetings regularly and complete work delegated to them, the trustee must resign so that an active member can be appointed. So.
You have some questions, Josh?
I most certainly do. There's three glaring issues that I see that, went, maybe on paper they look okay, but in application they're problematic. Number one is in the second paragraph down, there's a line in between the two. Trustees must distinguish between their personal attitudes and philosophies and those of the institution after a policy or rule is adopted by a majority of the library board. Individual trustees should not criticize or disagree with those decisions publicly. In practice, that means that we're not allowed to talk about our opinions versus what has actually happened. That's a violation of First Amendment rights of each trustee as an individual. And so that's extremely problematic. And most trustees are going to violate that, you know, if you're on any board. So that is a massive issue.
In the trustee handbook, it probably could be stated better. In the trustee handbook, it states that that obviously we can disagree about anything, but once a policy is put into place and voted on by the majority, then all the trustees need to support that policy.
Right, and the trustee handbook is very aggressive on that, but it's also not law. It's made by people who get behind these kind of things and not by people who have typically had any kind of opposition. You know what I mean? It's not made by people who are coming in to be disruptors or people who are coming in to have their own opinion and run things they need to, the way they need to be ran. And so I completely disagree with a lot of things in the trustee handbook because it's not legal. It's just people's opinions. So that's the first issue, and that's a massive issue. That's First Amendment rights of trustees being violated. Number two is trustees must be prepared to resist censorship of library materials by groups or individuals. And so if we go over the children's section, there's something that's highly sexually graphic in the children's section, and someone says, this is completely inappropriate to be in the children's section, this needs to be moved, something needs to happen to this content. We're saying that trustees are forced to actively be against that kind of censorship. That's completely wrong. Once again, you are taking the ability of a trustee away from them to say, I'm going to stand up for what's right. I'm not going to allow something that's wrong to go on just because majority rule says so. We actually have a policy in place of how we handle things that are content that people want to be censored. And if we're going to approach that policy in such a way where we're actually going to consider things and look at things, then that would be in complete contradiction.
I think
that
there's
portion
an
of the policy.
interpretation that you're making to what that says there, and that is, there's a thing on the library site that says, you know, patrons can challenge a title. There's a policy, like you said, a procedure in place.
Mhm.
But then once there's been discussion regarding that, and that example is one, like, it's so way out here that once we have been able to research and discuss and come to an agreement about what we were doing, at that point, then we're acting as one board instead of individual
But this
voices.
requires us to approach with a resistant to censorship approach. It says trustees must be prepared to resist censorship of library
Must be
materials. by groups.
prepared, meaning
Prepared, I
be
think.
informed,
Mhm.
be informed, make sure you understand what is being asked,
I
what
think
is
it's
being
completely- I
challenged.
think it's completely wrong. They must be prepared also
Yeah.
to resist
Yeah.
inappropriate content. I mean, that's our obligation to this community. I think both of those violate that obligation of the community. Trustees who accept library board membership are expected, it's not accept, you've been elected to that office. The people have selected you and put votes behind you, are accepted to perform all functions of the library trustee. If a trustee is unable to attend meetings regularly and complete work delegated to them, that is a violation of the fact that the taxpayers have elected an individual that we are going to delegate work to them. And if we say, you're not completing the delegated work, that you must resign, that's a violation of taxpayers voting for an individual. I think there's a massive legal argument for 1 and 2, and I think 1 and 3, excuse me, and I think number 2 is just trash.
Okay. I hear you. You're entitled to that. You voiced that opposition. You get to vote your conscience. But this is a second reading of these, actually. We had one, then we sent it to Robert. So this is our vote to whether we accept it or not. And, you should vote as you see fit.
I do have a question about it though. Individual trustees should not criticize or disagree with these decisions publicly. What does that mean publicly? Like, as a trustee or as a representative of the library?
I think as a representative of the, I don't know, we're
The
all
wording says
interpreting
both.
this.
It says you're not allowed to have an opinion separate from the.
Yeah, that's not it.
That's
It
bizarre.
doesn't mean that you can't have an opinion, it says to state it
can't state it.
publicly.
So
So,
you
for
can't talk to
example,
people about it.
I don't think that that's the intent of the wording.
Well,
But
the
if
wording
you-
says that though.
but
So we have to
It can be
change the wording
interpreted
before we
as that,
vote on
but
it.
there's no way we're gonna
No,
write
this is
this.
not a matter of
in a-
interpretation like you keep saying.
If. but wait,
Individual trustees should not
Josh,
criticize
I'm
or
gonna
disagree
interpret
with
it
those
this way,
decisions
that Josh,
publicly.
please
It's
let me
very
finish.
straightforward.
if you were to call the newspaper
Mhm.
as after we had come to an agreement,
Right,
and you were to say, yeah, all of, our votes would be on record, first of all, they could see that. But if you were to go out of your way to make a public issue,
right. In other words,
it's-
privately, you can talk about it.
privately, of course.
Right,
You
but
know, you're
public-
entitled to
okay.
your,
That-
and there's even rules about, in terms of, as the president, I get to speak on behalf of the library. But not everybody can go out willy-nilly to organizations and speak
Mhm.
as the library's voice. I don't know. I don't know about that, but,
Publicly means if someone asks you in Stewart's how you feel, you're not allowed to tell them
no,
how you feel.
I don't interpret it that way. I mean, it, you
Then
know,
why does it say publicly? That's public.
we're,
It's not a matter of interpretation when the word is public.
so we're
and that is
public right
publicly-
now, right?
Yes, we
We're in an
most certainly
open
are.
meeting. You have every right to say everything that you want. You're on record, you're being.
Prior to a vote, but after the vote, I can't, is what this
Well, you
paper
can still
says.
say that, but
Then
it's,
why does it say publicly? That's what I'm wondering.
what would you,
Because
how would you change that so that we
You're
didn't?
saying, no, the interpretation is different, but consistently, if you look at the wording, it says one thing. We can't say, oh, it's up to interpretation. We can't be like that. If it says one thing, we have to understand that that's what it says on the paper. It says publicly. That means publicly.
We're publicly right now and everyone's free to voice whatever their opinion
But
is or their.
if you vote on
interpretation.
this, I cannot go home and tell my wife that policy they just voted on is trash in the middle of Stewart's.
That's a private conversation. That's not a public conversation.
You're in a
You
public
talk
setting.
into-
It's,
Right.
it's bizarre. It's bizarre wording. Why would you even include that in there?
Well, so if it said after policy is adopted by the majority of the library board, individual trustees should support that policy. Which is basically what it says in the handbook.
Mhm.
As trustees. You have to give leeway for people to be their own individual person
So just
And-
add
and
as
have the-
trustees.
in their capacity as a trustee. Because if,
Individuals should, but let's see if we can wordsmith this to make sense. Is that all right?
That's fine with me.
Individual trustees should support. After policies should support.
This is something completely new, correct? This hasn't been out until.
It's not new in terms of the library system. It's not new in terms of the
It's
law
new
for
to
people
us.
that were trustees. They should have been signing it.
A year ago,
Yes.
3 years ago.
Yeah.
10.
Yeah,
Well, as long as they were as
We-
long as they were a school library, they should have. So
but we
that's
just
like
said that
2
we
years.
formulated this document. It's not like this document is
Well,
state
you can
mandated.
write them as
Right,
you
exactly.
need
So
to
the
for
issues
your-
that we have are because we formulated it and we can reformulate it the way that we need to.
However, we have read it once. We sent it to the lawyer. This is our second reading of it. So at this point, it seems like those issues would have been already like brought up.
Well, if I
Yeah.
was at the last
Yeah.
meeting, they
No,
would
it was
have.
not the last
we
meeting.
moved
We
the
didn't
date.
have them at the last meeting.
No,
It was several meetings ago. We had these out already. They were been sent.
I have not seen this or else I would have brought these 3 things up.
Because it was based on your question specifically, you asked, is it legal for us to sign these? So I
Or
went back to Robert.
When
And I
you
found
said that, you put nothing in front of us. We had a conversation, a general conversation about if it was a legal requirement. You had nothing in front of us though. And so
It's.
for you to say
it's in
that,
our
I've heard-
handbook as well, though.
the
They're
handbook
saying-
is nothing legal. It is nothing legal.
It is
So
a
I have
guideline.
never seen this document until today and no one else has, right? I mean, I don't know why we're.
I thought it was sent out in an email as well, but I would
Before
have
the
to
November.
do
But
research.
not at a previous meeting. We just talked Yes, it was given at a previous meeting.
not handed to you printed at a previous meeting. I believe it was sent in an email, but I'm gonna double check that so that I'm not telling a
Well,
falsehood.
if we wanted to change a few words, does it have to go back to Robert or what's, is that a big?
No,
So
at
can we
this
just
point,
do that?
we can just change it and be satisfied ourselves with how we word it.
Okay,
What I'm changing this first up objection to is after a policy or rule is adopted by a majority of the library board, individual trustees should support that policy in their capacity as trustees.
In their capacity as trustees. Okay.
Trustees must be prepared to resist censorship, maybe take censorship seriously or something of that nature. That you give it a serious look, but you're not, resist is not the right word there.
So
Okay, so what word were you using? Must be
take it
prepared to,
seriously.
Something that communicates, take it seriously.
so to consider and discuss,
Mhm.
to,
Consider and discuss would be sufficient.
anyone else have
Yeah, I'll
words?
be honest with you, I don't like any of it. I don't. I truly don't. My vote would be a no.
Okay,
That's how I feel.
okay.
I mean, they just, all of a sudden, this just come out of the sky,
It didn't.
even though.
It didn't, we
but I-
weren't following policy.
Well,
So the
I'm just
fact
saying.
is that we weren't
So,
doing what we were supposed to be doing.
so, okay, so then my question is, and I know you can't give me the answer to this, Janice, but how come our attorney didn't say to them 2, 3 years ago, look at, you guys haven't got this, how come you don't have it?
I
Where-
can't,
see, but you
right,
see
you're
what I'm
right, I
saying?
can't answer to
So,
that,
so my
but
vote's no, I think we're just wasting a lot of time on that, but that's my saying.
I'm still working on it because I don't think this fully
Makes sense.
makes sense. Because that actually turns it completely to the opposite
right.
of what it was saying.
I'm looking for neutral.
Right, I know, and I don't think we've hit neutral, that's all I'm saying, is,
What did we choose? Consider and discuss? Do we need that line in there? I mean, that's the role of the trustee anyway. Trustees must be prepared to. Faithfully consider. When matters of censorship of library materials by a group of or individuals.
I think that's saying the opposite of what we're saying here.
So this is saying we're resisting, which is
Well, it says
extreme.
be prepared too, so. And I think the point is that we need to be vigilant and we need to not just accept if someone says, I don't want this book's bad. We don't want to just take that.
Mhm.
We want to be vigilant and be careful and not to censor books if it's not necessary. If something is inappropriately placed in one place or another, that's an issue
Mhm.
that we should discuss. But to just say we'll consider, it makes it sound like we will.
But that's what the policy says anyway, though. The policy, and that's consistently been the problem with SALs and those kind of organizations, is they're just so anti-censorship that they don't even give the public the opportunity. Sure, we have a policy, but no one's actually gonna listen to it. No one's actually gonna read it. If we're gonna have a policy that says, if someone says this piece of literature is problematic, we need to communicate that we're gonna give that an honest look. We're gonna honestly, look at that material and see whether it's appropriate or not appropriate.
I'm not sure at this moment, what the best words are.
We can,
Deal with censorship. Do you want to table this and work on it and then come back to it?
well, I feel like we have, and we are supposed to, by New York state law, sign it before
Well, we
the
have,
year.
so it's
will-
not like,
I know,
it's not like
but
it's
I would like to do things the way that we're supposed to do things.
well, I will not
And
sign
so-
this and I will be a no vote. I will
Okay.
not sign something like
Okay.
this. This is not okay at all.
So
I am not sure, because, I mean, I definitely support this. As I interpreted things a little bit differently. I don't find any problem with the signing of it. I myself want to resist censorship because censorship itself is interpreted by me as, you know, willy-nilly saying no to things when you haven't really looked carefully and thoughtfully at the matter.
We have movie
so-
ratings for a reason. Are you for kids going in and watching a X-rated movie?
That's a whole
That's,
different
no,
argument.
it's really
It is.
not. It's the
I
very
do
same
not
argument.
believe, well, I don't believe that I should decide for someone else what their children do.
Well, as
I-
a board member, it's our responsibility to decide what is going to represent this library and what's going to represent this community on bookshelves. That's our responsibility. And so that hard, fast rule about censorship has proven to fall flat on its face consistently. And society's coming around to that. Because there's some things that do need to be censored. That's why we have movie rating systems. That's why video games and music also has rating systems. Books should not be exempt
The
from that.
rating systems are information that is used by people in their own ways. So whereas I might make a decision for my child, that about something differently than someone else would make a decision,
That's not true.
I really do believe.
You're not
that-
allowed to watch a movie at the movie theater if it's rated R and you're under the age of 18.
Well,
it's
that's
not
the
just
movie
someone's
theater's
opinion.
decision, but
But, and so it is expected that everyone will follow suit with that. That doesn't mean that we force feed people, but there are restrictions for a reason. This is saying that we are going to resist any kind of censorship, even if it's something that's blatantly inappropriate. Take the sexual stuff out of the way, because the past of this library. When I was a little kid, there was a website that put out all the pictures of terrible events. And so JFK's autopsy photos were public. I saw those. I couldn't sleep for a week. Should we have those in the kids section? Because we're fighting all censorship?
But arguing with our personal values, which is not what I think this is about.
That's what this is all about.
Trying to do is
That's what
figure
this
out
is
a
all
way to
about.
write
We
this.
just need to word it.
The ability to put the values of this community forward are what's
Well,
at stake.
that's what and I agree. And but when I think of this community, I don't just think about the people that either voted for me or agree with me. I think about how do people have access to things freely? And I also trust our clerks and our librarian, our manager to appropriately designate things so that the information is there for people to use and see books that are not going to be super disturbing, but
So then can we just take the sentence out? What value is this sentence providing?
I think it's
Okay.
there because it wants to remind us of our representation of a larger community than just our own personal values. That's what I see it as saying, but
What if it said trustees will discuss when issues of, we'll have a discussion, it's not grammatical, when issues of censorship are presented.
But like you said, that's saying the opposite of what this is. meaning
No,
to
it's not,
say.
I don't, I think
That's why I think,
we already have.
why not just take it out? And as trustees, we will, those who want to resist censorship will, and those who don't won't, well,
That's why the people elect us, right? Absolutely.
right? And I think it works out the same. Because the people who don't want to do it aren't gonna vote for it anyway. I don't know, I don't see the value that this is adding. I think the people who are against censorship don't need to be reminded to be against censorship.
I think if a new trustee member comes in here and wants to be one of us, and they read this, that's gonna back them right out the door. I mean, I've been involved in this library now long enough. I get questioned continuously on this library. I've taken a lot of BS from different people that don't like the library, and I've taken a lot of nonsense out in the public. And for me to walk away and say no comment, I'm not gonna. If they wanna argue with me, I'll argue. They wanna see the books, come see the books. It's black and white. I'm really upset. And nothing against what you're saying, Janice, not at all, as president. But why hasn't this been out before now? I do not know. You know, if I was to look at this stuff, I'll be honest with you, I don't even think I'd be sitting here right now. Cause I don't need it. I really don't need it. I'm trying to help the community, trying to keep this place running and trying to make it work. I'm not gonna get scolded because I might have said something wrong here in the library or down at Stewart's or over to the diner about the library. I mean, I'm sorry. I feel it's 100% wrong. So I feel if you want, as a president, vote on it, make a motion to vote, and take the vote and go there. Otherwise, no vote. We've been on this now for 25 minutes.
Mhm.
How about this for number 2?
I do think then if we're gonna rework the wording somehow,
For this one?
Mhm.
You know, I'm sorry, Janice, I'm interrupting.
It's all the same.
It's, Josh is suggesting this language, trustees are responsible to review and handle inquiries or concerns about library materials in accordance with established policies. In this is the case, we have established policies, then I
Okay.
think Beth is right, we can
Okay.
take this line
Okay.
right out.
all right. All right,
Because we're saying what we already are doing.
yeah,
And I think, you know, Colin's right, we're saying what we're already doing.
okay,
And what that's,
Then the only other issue is complete work delegated to them or they have to resign.
okay, well,
that just means that you can't be elected, accept that nomination, become a trustee, and then not contribute.
That's not the law, though. What about lame duck presidents?
Would you like that to be
I
the
mean,
case though?
what about the
What
attending?
does that have to do with anything,
What
though?
about attending meetings? Is that is also in the handbook, which I know you.
That's consistent with consistent with the current policies of the library. The work delegated to them, if the president is a jerk and says, if I came in tomorrow and I said, you know what, Janice, you're gonna do the finances next week, that this is saying that you have to
I
complete
don't
the
have
work
the power to
delegated.
do that. That would have been-
Then why
But
does it say that?
I
Okay.
think it's the delegated is the issue.
Okay,
I mean, what if it just said, you know,
makes contributions to work that they accept, something along those lines.
The must resign is not, I'm shocked that he looked this over, because when I first started as a trustee, there was a big push for me to be pushed out because of, you know, I had this opinion or this thought process and all these kinds of things. And you cannot force someone to resign.
Mm.
You cannot push people out.
If
They were
don't come to
elected, they were
meetings?
duly elected. That's the only thing on the street. That's the only legal reason you can actually get them out.
So
Mm,
the part is that they don't need to contribute, they just need to show up at meetings.
Now, that's obviously not the desire.
Of course.
But we have no right to tell them, you have to do what we want you to do, or you have to leave office. That's illegal. That's not right. They've been duly elected to this office. You can't just take someone out of an office because you feel like it. If it was an appointed position, you could. It is an elected position. That's not consistent with the law.
I hear how you're supporting the law on that, but if you've been elected, and I don't think that you would do this, but why would you accept that election on the basis of people and not do the work that you were supposed to do?
Sure, what you're saying is true, but this is a statement that we're putting forward. Yes,
Right.
why would you be in a position if that was the case? But this is something we're putting forward, and if it's inconsistent with the law and it just doesn't make sense, then shame on us if we put it forward. We're trustees, we're responsible to make sure it makes sense. Trustees who accept library board membership are expected to perform all functions of the library trustees.
Can we put that aside for a second and look at the conflict of interest? Because it sounds like that's gonna. The conflict of interest, I think, is probably easy for us to approach. A potential or actual conflict of interest exists when commitments and obligation are likely to be compromised by the board member's material interests or relationships, especially economic, particularly if those interests, or should that be interests, or commitments are not disclosed. The conflict of interest form should indicate whether the board member has an economic interest in or acts as an officer or a director of any outside entity whose financial interest would reasonably appear to be affected. The board member should also disclose any personal, family business, or volunteer affiliations that may give rise to a real or apparent conflict of interest. relevant federally and organizationally established regulations and guidelines in financial conflicts must be strictly followed. I don't have to read all of it out loud to you, right? You know that it's like making money, gaining some benefit. Is this one a little easier to accept,
Mhm.
Colin? The only time Robert said that, for instance, my nephew is the electrician that they use here regularly. And I brought that up and said, I don't want it to be a conflict of interest, but he was part of the larger bid. And was significantly lower than everyone else. And Robert said, just because he's related to you, if it's still a benefit to the library, it's not benefiting you. That's not a conflict of interest. So
Should we specify that in
Would you
here?
recuse yourself from?
I did.
Yeah.
I did recuse myself from a vote for that, yes.
Sorry, what should we specify?
Should that be specified in here?
Should-
That if your family.
It's kind of implied that I'm not making it, I'm not benefiting. So I'm just explaining that as an example, but it's already kind of in the words that are stated here already.
And that you would disclose it.
I disclosed it. It benefited the library, did not benefit me. So,
And you didn't vote on it.
right, and I didn't vote on it. I make a motion that we accept the conflict of interest disclosure form to sign as trustees.
I would second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No. Colin said no.
Okay, thank you.
So can we table this? It would be until January, but we'll try to bring it back in January and see if it's worded. So that we,
I'll do
acceptable.
some work on it and I'll send it to everyone.
uh-huh.
And this one's.
I don't have any new business that has just recently come up. And having no public comments. I move that we go into executive session to discuss the manager's terms of employment. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we'll just take a moment to let 7:12.